Hello and welcome to the Cats and Books Club podcast. I'm Izzy,
And I'm Erin.
and today we are talking about the second in the Monstrous Romance trilogy.
Actually, it's not going to be a trilogy. So it's,
Oh, all
yeah,
right. I'll let you do it.
yes. So it is called the Monstrous World series, and it is by S.E. Wendel.
We love her.
We,
Hi.
yes, hi. She's probably out there right now, hopefully listening to this. We have interviewed her here before um, about
Yeah, go
her
check that
book.
out. It was a lot of
Yes,
fun.
yes, about her
I
book,
don't know what episode
Halfling.
it is, but I'm sure it's not that far
No.
to look.
And so the first book that we read of hers was, of course, the first book in the Monstrous World books, which is Halfling. This second book, which is called Ironling, picks right up where Halfling left off,
Which
um,
is where,
which is, if you remember, or spoiler
or
alert, if
don't
you,
if you didn't read it, but
yep, if you
spoiler
didn't read
alert.
it, this is a spoiler alert. So, um, it left off where we had Sorsha, a human woman, falling in love with Auric, a half orc, and they went on
Half
a
orc,
grand
half
adventure.
human. You have to specify because he could
Oh,
be
half
half
orc,
and
half
human.
human. That's right. That's right. So he was half orc, half human. And they go on a grand adventure, which we cover in that podcast that we did on
Halfling,
Darrow.
go check it out. But basically, at the end of their journey, we begin Ironling, which
Mm-hmm.
is essentially the main characters of Halfling, their sort of mutual friends and community members.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who are those community members?
So the
We've got
the
characters.
yes, the leading lady of Ironling is Aislinn Darrow, who is the sort of heirling princess to her land, and we have met
Yeah,
her
so
in
she's an
book one.
heiress. She
Yes, she
has
is an
like noble
heiress.
lady duties to do and
Mm-hmm.
noble dude duties. It's all she's had to take up the slack because her shitty brother was the one that like the main character of Halfling. Spoiler alert. Well, he ends up being the one who had her kidnapped. So he's in jail now, and so Aislinn has had to pick up the slack there because
Mm-hmm.
her brother is now in jail.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, he wasn't sent to jail. If you remember, instead of sending him to jail because Aslan let Sorsha determine his fate,
Oh,
um, he went to a sort of kind of like a charitable organization where he was supposed to be doing like charity work. And like it was, I believe, at a monastery.
was
So
it?
he's,
Oh, I
yeah, like
thought he
he's
like
not, no, he's not in jail yet. He was sent because she kind of felt like she didn't want to be too cruel, but she sent him basically to
well,
do
yeah, it's her
charitable
brother.
work. Well, no, Sorsha didn't want to be that cruel. It was Sorsha who
Sure.
sent him
Oh, right.
to, yeah,
Yeah, you're right. You're
mm-hmm.
right. You're right. You're right.
Because Aslan let her determine his fate. And instead, I mean, she could have had him, sent to jail, but she didn't. And she said, you know what, you can go and you can do some good for a change and do
Right. So he was given a second chance already.
basically. So, anyway, that is the main heroine of Ironling. Now I'm gonna
Is
swivel.
Aislinn the heiress,
Yes, it's
not the
Aslan.
boy or whatever? All right. Really? Oh. So, Aaron, tell us about our romantic uh co-lead in this book. We have one half of the romance. Who's the other half?
And then we have Hakon, who is another half orc, half human. And we
And
kind of,
what's his backstory?
well, he has been raised by his grandparents. And kind of at the very beginning, um, it kind of starts with his grandparents dying. They have just died, and he's kind of trying to determine what he wants to do. So he had a human father that perished in a hunting accident. And when his father died, his orcish mother disappeared into the wilderness with her grief and was never seen again, basically. Um, so we have Hakon, who was raised, taken in by his grandparents, and both of them have just died. So he
Wait, here's what's
also.
interesting.
Mm-hmm,
This is the second book
mm-hmm,
in the series where we have the orc mom abandoning the son.
ooh,
But in the first one, it was human mom abandoning the son. And so the reasoning in the first one was like, okay, she was taken against her will. So that's understandable that she would abandon, you know, her son that like reminded her of her abuse and
mm-hmm.
abuser. It's like, okay, that's an understandable reason. This is actually not a very understandable reason to me.
Yeah, it's kind of like because
Like,
she
I'm
just like
surprised that an orc
overcame.
mom
Mm-hmm.
would not be fiercely loyal and devoted to their kid. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
actually, yeah.
Because you would think that the child of a union between an orc and a human, when the orc is very like hell bent on serving the family, being useful, you know, doing things to show that you care.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm just surprised, and I wish there was more about what would cause that to change for an orc mother, like a full orc mother, not even a half orc mother.
Right, right, like a full orc, full
So
blood.
I'm just now thinking, I'm curious about that, and I kind of wonder what S.E. Wendell would say
I know. I'm excited.
about like the background of the mom.
Yeah, we're gonna try actually to interview her again. We're reading the third book in her series before we pick her back up for an interview. But she also has a fourth book coming out in the series, and that will be out next, or well, this July. So yeah, so the second book obviously is Ironling. The third one is called Sweetling, and the next book in the series is called Failing, but that obviously is not, that one's not out yet. But anyway, back to Hakon, something that I also wanted to mention about him. Sorry. Okay. Back to Hakon, he, we find out in the very beginning, he also is hard of hearing in his right ear. So, yes, we have some disability rep in this book.
And
And I
it's
read,
nice because throughout the
yeah.
book there are, accommodations that he has, and you know, there's a lot of like disability awareness going on with the characters in the book about it,
Mm-hmm.
with everyone just interacting with him, and they all kind of understand. And if they don't, he'll tell them. So that's nice to see that, because a lot of people do suffer from hearing loss and you just don't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
But we also forgot to mention that Aislinn is very big autism representation.
Very
With
much.
Yeah,
Yes.
which I mean, we're both of us are on the spectrum for sure, and we
Yes.
have we can relate to a lot of these um situations that happen.
Mm-hmm. Actually, there was this part in the book where Aslan um, again, kind of in the beginning of this journey, Aislinn receives a letter stating that her brother, who we met in book one, has escaped the ward and ran away. And when this happens, she becomes so upset and so overwhelmed. She has these moments where she calls them fits. And what happens is she gets so overwhelmed and over like stimulated, and she has to like let that out. So she kind of hides them, because she doesn't want to seem as if she cannot handle her duties. But I remember there's like the scene after she gets that letter and she's like, I have to break down now or I'm gonna. And honestly, same though, because there's been moments where
She's like, I need a minute.
yeah, like I felt really seen by that because I was like, yeah, there are times where I get overwhelmed and I get overstimulated and something like even it can be like something really stupid and minor. Um, but to me, it's like, oh my God, I have to like scream and yell for just a second and I need to cry and then I'll be okay about 10 minutes later. But I need that 10 minutes to have a sort of fit of my own, I guess.
Sometimes you gotta scream in a closet.
I mean, honestly. And then,
We forgot to mention that Hakon is uh Smith, Iron
yes,
Smith,
yeah, yeah,
which
kind of
is
how
why the
they,
book is called Ironling. It's a
yes,
halfling, but he hits the iron.
yes. And like the reason that they meet, um, like Oric, the orc from last book, he puts forth Hakon to work for the castle as a blacksmith. And what I wanted to
What's the
touch,
backstory behind how they met?
you mean Aislinn and Hakon?
Yeah.
I'm
Or
actually
no, no,
gonna,
no. I mean Oric and Hakon.
um,
Because if they
from
knew each
what
other before,
Yeah, yeah. From what I could tell, they had crossed paths before, and there had been a lot of orcs, kind of stemming from that first book, where Oric marrying Sorsha kind of bridged that gap of hey,
okay,
like
politically,
other,
yeah.
like the magical and other kind of they call them like the other sort of creatures, but it opened up this flood for these other creatures to kind of come into that land in the Darrowlands and to come in and start their own families, their own houses. And it kind of opened that up. So Hakon is one of the orcs who's coming forward to be like, hey, I would like to get a job in the Darrowlands. I would like to start a family here. I would like
He's got his immigration petition ready to go.
pretty much.
Yes,
But
this is big themes, immigration
yes,
themes.
yes.
So, like, interestingly, I've started playing the Oregon Trail game, and there's a lot of like westward expansion energy in like, I mean, not really, but like politically
Yeah,
and
like,
socially, it's like, okay,
right.
um,
It's
the
similar.
the culture will change, right? And a lot of people are scared of that. And Aslin's like first lady represents the old people who don't want anything to change.
Yes, definitely. There were a couple of quotes that I will touch on later that I wrote down of hurtful things that were said kind of by her advisor lady. And it was like,
Yeah,
whoa,
it's like a bunch of like
whoa,
ableist, like shitty
whoa.
shit.
Yeah, yeah, it was interesting. But I first want to touch on because I actually like copy pasted this because I was like, oh my god, I love this. So I want to touch on the moment when Aslan and Oric meet, or not Oric,
Yeah,
jeez,
let's go back to
Hakon.
that because we were
Okay, yeah, we got off
there.
track,
That
but it's
was
okay.
where we were. That was where we were. Okay.
So okay, I love this quote. Um, so first she sees the dog Wolf. Okay, so Wolf is kind of
It's
um
Hakon's like mega dog. He's got
yeah,
a
pretty
big
much.
ass
His
dog.
yeah, pretty much. But he's a very friendly dog.
Friendly
Um
dog. We've got our animal companion, just like the first book. It was Dara, the
Dara.
little
Raccoon.
raccoon
The
who
baby
comes back. But
raccoon.
anyway, that's for later. Okay, sorry to derail.
No, you're okay. But I love this quote. None of that was what surprised Aslan. Several staff kept dogs, as did her family, though they hadn't in years. No, it was the enormous green hand on the dog's collar, attached to the greenest, most muscular arm she'd ever seen. She tracked the bulging bicep up to a massive shoulders, clad in a well worked leather jerkin with tooled silver at the collar and shoulder. Kneeling beside the biggest dog she'd ever seen was the biggest man she'd ever seen. Even on his knees, his head was nearly level with Hugh's chest, and Hugh wasn't a small man. So I freaking love the initial meeting because she's automatically like, ooh, like, oh, he
She's
looks
like,
hot.
he's big.
But I loved it. To go back to Aislinn, I want to bring up something that also made me feel so seen that I had to copy and paste it out again. I was like, guys, like this, like for my notes, I just like highlighted it immediately.
Go ahead.
So Hugh is like the chef at the castle, and Aslan starts talking about how she just couldn't bear certain textures, fish being one of them. But she was more than content with her hearty bowl of pea soup, a plate of the roasted vegetables, and a generous cut of the crusty loaf she'd helped knead that very morning. I can see myself and several others that I know through this part of the text, part of the book, because textures for me are also a huge, huge discomfort. For me,
Life or death situation.
yeah, like that whole situation, I was like, oh my God, it's me. But
Sometimes
yeah.
you need the same thing every day or you'll have a bad time.
Yeah, I completely understood her. That's why when and again we'll kind of get more into this, but when she has this lord that thinks that he's going to win her hand, but he is very shitty to herself and her staff, and like he like made a dig about, well, why aren't you eating like what everyone else is eating? And I'm like, bruh, really? Shut up.
Right. It's like,
that
oh, you're gonna
that
come comment on my food?
No, that
What
made
is
me
this, an
so
interview? Like, go away.
that part actually like made me so mad because I've had people comment on my food before and it really bugs me. It's like, stop commenting on what I'm eating unless you
Tell me
like,
about
I
it.
don't know. It's just first off, it's just rude. It's just rude. And secondly,
Don't look at my food. That's rude. Oh, can you talk about Alarion?
oh my god, yes, guys. Okay. So,
Because
side
that's
note.
another autism rep that we got
Yes.
pretty
Oh my
strong
god,
in
I love
here.
him so much. Okay, so guys, there is this character that we meet in Ironling. He is a Fey warrior called Alarion. The third book in the series, Sweetling, is kind of giving his story because his story is kind of touched on in this book,
But
but
they don't get, yeah,
we don't
we
get
don't
into
get
it
into
until
it
book three.
until the next one.
Yes,
Yeah, I was
but
sad there wasn't more representation of this character in this book. He
oh,
popped in a couple,
oh, there
but
will
we
be.
didn't really get to
Trust
know him
me.
too well
Trust me.
this
See,
time
I've
around.
already started book three, and I'm like, oh my god,
She just keeps wanting to
everything.
yap about it. I haven't even read it. I'm getting
I.
there.
Okay, so I'm not gonna talk about book three, but I want to I want to talk about him. So this is kind of his intro into the book. By the time they returned to Ilarion, perhaps the most striking thing about the Fae, as if the way he exuded magic wasn't enough, trotted from the forest to join them. The hairs on the back of Hakon's neck rose, and he had to put a hand on Wolf's head to stop his growl. Dark as the shadows he emerged from was Alarion's steed, the unicorn Bellerand. Perhaps even rarer and more mythical than the Fae were their terrifying steeds. Larger than the.
Terrifying.
I freaking love. Just, oh, I love it. Anyway, larger than the draft horses humans use to pull great loads, sparks seemed to burst from every great hoof fall as the unicorn stepped forward. With a mane of midnight black and coat as dark as a starless night, the soft light of the meadow seemed to bend around him. So I love him.
We've got cosmic
So
unis.
I love, no, but okay. The so basically how Alarion kind of ties into this book with the other characters, he is
Hmm.
one of the others who is putting forth a letter to claim a stake on some land. He wants land. He wants to join people in the Darrowlands. So
Right.
he gets like really mad because he keeps putting forth letters and they're going unanswered. Which we find out later that those letters are being kept from her lady's advisor lady who no one likes.
Once
Um,
again, we have politically the party who is trying to keep the others from coming in and destroying our way of life because we don't want those types around.
That's right. Okay, okay, listen. Okay, so going back to kind of the autism sort of vibe that he gives off, I'm going to read the paragraph because it's hilarious. So finally, Alarion gets like, he gets mad. He's just like, bruh, what the hell? Like I have lettered and lettered and lettered and I have sent mail. Where is my land? So basically he comes up to the castle and he's like, bish, you're gonna hear me. Um so this is what he says. But he's like, I've come to petition for the Scarborough estate. It seems missives go missing here, so I've come myself, and I don't plan to leave without seeing a Darrow. His lips thinned. Perhaps I'd have better luck with the father. And then she's like, he isn't here, and he's not going to be back until tomorrow. And he's just like, I'm prepared to wait. I've given her enough time. And Hakon is like getting mad because he is like trying to defend Aislinn. And he's like, hey, Lady Aislinn promised to see your petition. I'm sure there's a good reason why she hasn't. Okay, this is the best part. And he's like, take me to her. And Hakon is like, no. And they like stare at each other. It says they stared at each
No.
other for a long moment before Bellerand, the unicorn, huffed and threw his mane impatiently. Again, he's just so freaking weird. Like, Alarion is so weird. And he's so funny
Right.
and just so freaking unaware. But like, there's also this part where he like, where the unicorn basically like like Hakon is in the blacksmith. He's in the smithy and he's like blacksmithing, and then all of a sudden, like all the like sunlight leaves, and he's like, "What the hell is that?" And he goes outside, and the freaking unicorn is like blocking all light, and he's like, "Oh, it's just them." But like, it made me laugh so much because I was like, "Oh my
It
god,
was Aaron's
imagine."
favorite part.
It was because it was like, imagine a giant black unicorn with his like very like straight faced Fae warrior just being like
Blocking out the light.
like, I don't know, I was cracking up. But he's basically like, I even wrote this in my notes. It's like Ilarion basically comes and he's like, bitch, I want a house.
Yeah, I feel like the beginning of the book was a lot of like explaining the admin duties that Aislinn had to do and how she didn't want to do it. She just wanted to hang out with Hakon. And
Mm-hmm.
what's interesting is like the view Hakon has of their relationship, which is like, I want to be the main, most interesting thing in her life. I wish she
Mm-hmm.
didn't have all these other things to do.
I
Like,
I
I wish
yeah.
she would choose me over her work.
I think where he was coming from was he saw how stressed she was and he was like, I
Right,
want to
that
take
she
that
didn't
away.
want to do it. Like,
Right. Like, I want to take that away. Okay. So as we're talking about Izzy, what you brought up with Hakon trying to, I think it's obviously coming from a good place. He wants to help her and take away her stress. Um, but there was this part in the book where Auric meets with Hakon, and he kind of sits with Hakon and he's like, look, like, Sorsha and I are together. Like, Auric's or excuse me, Hakon is basically like, hey, like, it worked out for you and Sorsha, so it'll work out for me and Aislinn. And but Auric says, I'm glad, obviously, that she is with me, but all we can do is take things as they come and build our life because she deserves nothing less, and I will do whatever it takes for her. And then
mhm.
Oric kind of asks Hakon, he said, can you be what she needs? He's like, I understand where you are coming from, but Is that really what she wants? Is that
Mm-hmm.
what she needs? Can you fit your life to hers? Because, and I loved that little moment of Oric kind of not so much calling Hakon out, but kind of saying, hey, like, I get like what you're saying, but, you know, she needs more than you. Like, you taking her away from her duties is not going to solve the problem.
Right, like, it may not be in her best interests at all.
Right. And I actually really love that. Um, and kind of
Yeah, like, that they
showing
have
that
that
friendship.
conversation is good to
Mm-hmm.
show that there's, like, some conflict there.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think part of the fantasy from Aislinn's perspective is she's so tired of making decisions that it's nice to imagine there's someone else ready to make them all for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, like, willing to
Yeah.
do that.
I get that fantasy too.
Where, yeah, an autistic bitch's, like, fantasy is, like, somebody helps me with all the impossible shit I have to do every fucking day.
Yeah, I mean, honestly.
And we're here like, "Yeah, we love that, but then it's
Oh,
also like, "Wait, is that what she wants? Does she know what she wants? Or is she just really tired?" Like,
right, absolutely. And then we have some cute. I don't want to go too far in depth because if you guys read the book, you'll get all the spice and cute scenes that you want. Um,
right, their
how?
relationship is lots of
Yes.
him being making her stuff, and she shows him ideas for inventions, and so it's like the engineering nerds hanging out.
Pretty much. And part of what I loved is that because he has that hearing loss, he teaches her, like they call them hand gestures, but it's like, it's signing, it's sign
It's
language.
sign
Yeah,
language,
it's
yeah.
sign language. So he like teaches her that. And then eventually they're able to like talk that way. And there were scenes of them like talking like that and signing to each other. So again, something that I just loved about this book because sometimes people will put a character in or put characters in with disabilities, but then they just kind of like don't really.
Yeah, they don't show up interfering with their daily lives. Like, you don't
Yes.
see
Yes.
the disability being a problem and
Right.
disabling them and then them having to work around it.
Right. Whereas
But
in
in
this,
this, you see it a
yeah,
lot. Yeah,
a
that's
lot.
really
Yeah.
nice to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Just there are so many terrible representations of disabilities in the fiction we've read. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
And
really
this is
nice
not.
that this is so
This is
respectful. I mean, to
yes,
me, now I don't have these disabilities, right? So I'm not the person to say it.
that
But
is true.
well, I mean, autism maybe. It's not like officially diagnosed, but ADHD has been. So there's that.
I kind of agree. Like if I'm like comparing this to other books we have read on this podcast and talked about, and you can peek back at our other
Which
podcasts.
ones? There's so many.
Well, I can think of one in particular. So, to me, if I'm comparing this book's disability representation to, so I'm comparing this to the Throne of Glass series, and specifically Tower of Dawn, where we have this disabled character, but then it's like we have it at the end where it's like, oh, it's cured. I
By the way, it's
ooh
cured.
oh I mm-mm, 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 mm-mm. And we have this, like literally, if I'm comparing those two, specifically those two books that we have read, and we read this book where the representation is so well done, in my opinion, and so well, it's thought out and it's
It's relatable.
interwoven. Right, it's relatable and it's interwoven within the story in a way that is respectful.
Hmm.
To me, again, just speaking from things that we've read specifically on this podcast, again, if I'm looking at this and I'm looking at Tower of Dawn, I can tell you which one does a way better job. Because to me,
Definitely.
the way Tower of Dawn and the way Sarah J. Maas, sorry, the way she dealt with disability was bad.
Famously bad.
Famously
Um,
bad. Like bad.
I am wondering what you think about like the theme of training the successor, right? The
Mm-hmm.
future generation of stuff, because a lot of the book that was a theme, right? There was Hakon being the new guy in the blacksmith, and then the ending, right? Spoiler alert,
Mm-hmm.
that like those blacksmiths kind of retire and then give the rest of it to Hakon to like bring up, right? There's a lot of
Right.
like
Right.
passing the baton,
Mm-hmm.
aging out of duties and training the next people. And
Mm-hmm.
then also not just that, but having to respect the differences in the way that they do these things that they've passed on. Like once it's out of your hands, you have to like you can't control it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You have to let it go.
Yeah, like we were seeing a lot of that too, like I said, with like the woman that she had like as her advisor lady, wanting things to kind of stay the same.
And
Um,
she knew that like
just
she in order to keep it the same, she couldn't let go until she died, basically.
yeah, and it just felt really like the more you see their relationship, like Aslan and her advisor's relationship, because when Aslan goes to her advisor and says, "Hey, like this Fey warrior, he came to me. He was very upset. He said that he's been trying to get in touch with me. What is going on?" And then she said, "Well, I kept them. I kept those letters from you because we don't need them. We don't need them here. We don't need the otherlies within the Darrowlands. They shouldn't be." And what she says is they shouldn't be given land. We don't know who they are. And it was like, whoa, whoa. But I
It's
do,
like, and finally the secret's out. I'm surprised she told her the truth. I'm
well,
surprised she didn't just say, "Oh, maybe they just got blah blah blah."
well, but the thing is, I think with people who really are like that, though, and who really do have views like that in the real world, they eventually cannot hide who they really are. You eventually see
Yeah,
them for
they
who they
just are
are.
begging to tell somebody
Mm-hmm.
that
And like,
they hate them and they shouldn't be here and blah blah blah.
yeah, and what I loved, I feel like this was kind of that turning point in the book where Aslan really starts to like step up, and because she said that is not your decision to make. Your position is to bring me correspondence for me to answer. You are
Was that
not
when
to
she fired her,
um
or did
that
she
isn't
fire her later?
like she kind of fired her kind of like way at the end, not way at the end, but
It
kind of
was
that was
it was like after that, right?
yeah, it was. But I think because she had Hakon and because she had, experience with the otherly folks and the magical creatures and the fae and the orcs and, all these other magical creatures who were coming into this land, I feel like that strengthened her to really come into who she was supposed to be as a leader, though, because I feel like at the beginning
Yeah,
we're
she was
seeing,
able to make that
yeah,
decision
yeah,
when
like
before there was a lot of like, oh, I'm not really the leader yet. Like I still have to answer to my dad. And then I thought that choice of keeping the dad away during all this was a nice way for that character to have that like forced to be the one in charge moment.
yes. Yes. And like I just loved that. I loved how Aslan, her character just developed and came into her own and decided, this is who I'm going to be as leader. And I don't want to keep these people out. I see the good things they are bringing into my community, and I don't want to keep them out. I want them to continue growing. Um,
No, my husband is one of them. Get out of here. I need people in my kingdom.
Pretty much. I
Hotties
mean,
come here.
bodies come here. So anyway, if we're going kind of forward, basically,
Yeah, because there was basically plot number two that came right sort of the last third of the book. The
yeah,
first third was, or maybe even half, I'm not sure. We
yeah.
had a
The
very
first,
long, slow burn, similar to many Victorian novels, of just little moments here and there, and being like, "Oh, I want him, but he is not telling me." But then at the very right, like we get the subplot with the brother and the army, and this is where we get our little mini war. We
mhm.
just a little bit of war as a treat.
It's a treat. It's a treat. Oh my god, I can imagine Essie Wendell. She's gonna be listening to this and being like,
Just a baby war, just a whole
it's
war.
just a little
Well,
baby war.
because it's just I like because this is where shit really hit the fan, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
we've
yeah.
got you've got like the bro somehow convinced a bunch of vagabonds they could just take like pillage his house, and they were like, "All right, we'll go pillage a house."
Yeah, like that he could take back the throne. And it's like, bitch, please.
Like, yeah, right. But also, it was nice that like because she was a friend to like the immigrants were willing to like go to bat for her to help her out.
Yeah, like that
Because
Fey
none of them
warrior.
wanted that son of a bitch to be like the
Right,
leader of the
right.
Darrow, or is that what it was called? The
The,
Darrow?
the, the Darrowlands. Yeah, like,
Darrowlands, yeah, because their last name is Darrow. Okay, yeah.
yes. And well, what I loved, though, was that because she had shown them such kindness, particularly Alarion, the Fey warrior, that he was willing, he was like, I'm willing to go to bat. I'm here. What's up?
If I can live here, this is my home. So like,
I love
by the
it.
way, you owe me one. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Let me in.
No, what I also loved, I don't know if you remember this part, but when they were having like a council meeting and like Alarion is kind of like late and he's kind of just like, bam, bam, and he kind of like enters, he
I
enters
know
late.
his
He
dramatic
is so
entry was really good.
dramatic. And then like everyone's like, oh, why is he here? What's the meaning of this? This guy isn't one of us.
So I have a question, right? And my question is there.
I love
So
him.
actually, I have a whole list of questions that I have
Okay, okay,
under a section of my notes called "I have questions."
okay,
Um.
okay.
So how do we feel about the one guy, right, who came in with his like soldiers and like sieged the place under the guise of like getting the princess to marry him, or the not princess, but you know what I mean. What was she again?
She's a lady.
A lady? Yeah, okay.
Lady.
I'm very confused about like hierarchies of shit. But I feel like him like getting hanged and everyone watching it is like super intense.
Well, I will tell you just again from a
So what do you think?
historical. For
Sure, that's what
me,
would happen. But I'm just like,
yes, yes,
yo,
yes. No, for me, if I am looking at this, if we are looking at this in a historical, medieval, for lack of a better term, European context,
yeah, yeah,
like
your classic fantasy setting.
you're well, not even classic fantasy. I'm talking historic, like medieval times. Like if we go back,
All right.
like in actual
Yeah, I
real
mean,
life
definitely there's
history.
no like technology in this world.
Right.
So,
So
yeah.
like, but I mean like the lord that tried to like usurp her and her brother who also tried to usurp her, like what
Mhm.
happened to them was quite mild.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm sure
Honestly,
way usually
because
way worse things would happen.
yeah,
They just
because
wanted it over with.
yeah, like no, like especially like in Europe, like if you were trying to like usurp a throne, like no, that no.
Right. So
You were
like
dead. Like you were dead.
do you think the brother getting his head slashed off by Hakon in a rage was
Mhm.
a better death for him than a different death? Or than him being like imprisoned forever?
You know, I
Like
think
what do
at
you
that,
think?
okay, so to me, I feel like her brother had already been given a second chance to
Right, like
become
a
a better
lot of
person,
chances.
right? Like he had been given the chance, he was banished. Like Sorsha at that moment in book one, if you've read book one, and we remember that
Yeah,
time
she could have
where
killed him
she
real
literally
quick.
could have killed him on the spot. Like that was her right to
Mhm.
do. And guess what? In
And
medieval
he's still a
society,
problem.
yeah, like in medieval
And I've
society, that shit happened. Like
right, sure,
that.
probably
I
all the
mean, it
time.
did.
Like it was probably
It
pretty
did.
common. I was like,
Like
well, he should have thought of that before being a
it.
piece of shit.
Yeah. Like they were pretty. I mean, like there were just rules. Like it would be like today. Okay. Like if you
Mhm,
think about
mhm.
this, if you think about this today, like I don't care if you like I don't know I don't care if you hate Prince William or whatever. If you went over there and tried to usurp the like freaking British monarchy throne, like what do you think is going to happen to you? It's not going to be good.
Right.
Like
It's
you're
gonna
going to
be
die.
stupid.
But like anyway, like again, for me in a
So
historical
you think
context,
it's like fair that he got his head chopped. But so do you
I
think
do think
he
it's fair.
should have
I
been
thought it
put
was
on
fair.
trial though? Like the son?
I think
Like
okay.
again? Or do you
So
think
like
this just made the most sense? Because it was an accident anyway. It
yeah, I
wasn't
mean it
like they
was an
weren't
accident.
trying to kill
No,
him.
they weren't trying, but or Hakon was like, bitch,
Hakon
nope,
was just
nope.
protecting
Right, he
his
was
lady.
protecting his love. Um, Now for me, I feel like okay, if different scenario, if he lived and they were like, nope, you're gonna be put on trial and you're gonna be in prison for life. I feel like the imprison for life thing, like his chance with that was when he was sent to like the ward to do like charitable work. I feel like
Right.
that was his life imprisonment and he fucked
He
it up.
fucked it up.
He fucked it up. So to
Yeah, and it was
me
like, man, we really let you off good that
it,
first time, and you
I,
still went and still
and
tried.
still, you know what it reminded me of actually as I was reading it, and this is kind of like a weird, not weird, but it made me think of Ted Bundy because they kept
Interesting.
no, because they kept putting him in prison. And then because he was so charming, they would like not put his handcuffs on in the courtroom. And that's how he got out one time. Like he
There's so
left.
no, I remember that. Yeah,
Like,
where they were
like,
like, ah, he wouldn't do that. He
right,
look at how civilized he
right,
is.
right. So to me, honestly, I was like, yeah, I mean,
That's what
yeah,
you fucking get.
that's what you get. Like, so to me, I thought it was pretty darn fair. And quite frankly, I like, especially with the other lord who tried to,
Yeah, that it was like a
like,
conspiracy.
yeah, it was like, dude, I'm sorry. Like, if you tried that back then, like, no, you would have been, your ass would have been grass. Okay, like, no, no. Now I do want to bring about one thing. Okay, because I thought it was adorable. Because, okay, okay, so I want to bring up the guy who, um, the guy who was like trying to usurp and like trying to take over. His name was Lord Bayard, and I love how he was like again
Yeah,
like he
this
was
was the guy who was
I
trying to marry Aislinn, like by
I
force.
I was dying. Okay, so like first off, I do want to bring up the fact where he was like talking about her freaking food, and he was like, "Are you sure you want to at least try this?" And like one of the maids is like putting Aslan's like simple plate in front of her, and she says, "No, thank you. I've got my food right here." And he like says, "Well, you eat the same as the staff." And she's like, "Actually they're making me my own plate because really I don't
She's being
really
so
like that."
patient with his fucking ass.
Yes, and oh my god, and he says, "Well, shouldn't the staff be grateful for whatever is put in front of them?" And then I love this. She and says, Aslan slid her gaze over Bayard and arched her brows. "I could say the same of you, Baron, as a guest. Alas, another way we don't suit at all." Bayard smiled in that
Yup.
wolfish way she was coming to dread. "But I so enjoy our debates." And she says, "I think that's the only thing you would enjoy from a union between us. I'm certain we'd make each other miserable." And I literally wrote, "Oh my God, someone kill him already. I am dying
Kill
internally of
him.
secondhand. I am dying internally of secondhand embarrassment." Like somebody,
He's getting
some,
killed already. Just put him out of his
oh,
misery.
like get him out. And then, okay. So then, like, before all the war crap happens, which we've already kind of talked about, but so when Bayard is like trying, he basically tries to trap Aslan because he calls forward this like I don't even remember what they called it, but basically where all these suitors could come forward for her hand, and um, so she's like, well, shit, I can't get out of this, and then like he was like, what? if there's no more suitors, and then Hakon comes in, and he's like, there is one more.
Yeah,
Bam!
we love the cliche like barge in.
It was so
One
awesome.
more. I
It,
object.
it was so awesome because he came in and he's like, I am Hakon Greenfist, and I am here to offer
Me.
myself for the hand of Lady Aislinn Darrow. And the crowd like erupts, like the staff, because the staff, it's so funny and cute because all her staff, like the chef and like her
They're all
ladies' maids,
rooting.
they're
They're
all
rooting for him
rooting for him, and because they know, and they, they don't say anything, but
because
they
he's their
freaking know.
boy. They love
He's
him.
Yes, they love him, and like everyone's like, yay, 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 and then like Bayard is like, he cannot do this. He's an orc, and they're like, shut up, and I loved it. I was
They're like,
dying.
you want to die.
I was dying. So anyway, okay, and so basically it wraps up all happy and blah blah blah.
Well, the
All
war
happy endings. The
happens.
war
They end up.
happens.
Everybody gets killed.
The end. Bye.
Um. Well, okay. Here, I have a question about this war, right? Because
Yes.
here's where some
Okay.
of my questions come up.
Yes. Oh yeah,
That
you had questions. That's right. Sorry.
I'm wondering why
Mm-hmm.
Ulrich did not go into berserk mode because his wife was out there right next to Aislinn.
Oh, that's true. Ooh, that I
Now,
cannot answer.
maybe he's toned his shit down but like, you know what I mean? Where we have
Yeah,
two half orcs on the field, not just Hakon,
that is true.
and both of them are now mates with each other. They are like, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
technically like officially bonded mates.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So
That
I
is
was
true.
wondering, I
Hmm.
guess like because Sorcha did not get harmed, maybe it kept it in, and like what really made it
Yeah.
come out was the fact that like Aslan was like in the line of
It
danger, like
and she
at
got
that
injured.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that
Yeah.
she was harmed,
Yeah.
and that was what triggered it. But I was kind of curious. I was like, man, that would have been a hell of a lot quicker if both of them had gone berserk mode,
They'd just
but
be
only
like,
one of them did.
"Listen
Yeah,
here."
so I was
No, I'm
like,
just
man,
kidding.
just like quick, somebody cut Sorcha's arm real quick. Just put her in the front, it'll set it off. Like I was wondering about like the dad, right?
Mm,
Because he was taken out of the whole mini war
mm. Yeah, because
against
he got
that was
sick.
against him versus his own son, right? So
Yeah.
he's gone forever dying. He comes
Yeah,
back.
because he gets
His
sick.
two children have been to war against each other, and his rebel child gets killed in the process. Now, he's like, how much like weird style grief do you think he has?
I would think,
Like because he wasn't there. Like he was sick and
yeah,
missed it, and now his son is dead. So like he
like
couldn't talk to him, he couldn't do anything to stop it. Like
I feel like he had like very mixed. Now this is just coming from me as someone. If I like am thinking inside his head, that would be. It's kind of like someone that you're estranged from, and even though like you still love them,
right.
like you're estranged from them.
You're like, I can't let this affect me.
So it's
Well,
like,
what I'm
yeah, I
wondering,
don't know.
I
I
have
think I
another
would think it would be
question.
mixed. Yeah.
Like to build on this question. How do we feel about Aslin not telling her father that Hakan actually killed him?
Mm,
Like,
mm.
even though he wouldn't care, I think it's interesting that she does not want to tell him. Like, she's like, let's just say he got killed during battle and leave it. We
Yep.
don't need to bring in who it
I
was.
I think in a way maybe she felt like that would be more of a blow to her father.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I mean, it's her loved one. Like,
yeah.
and I think what it is it feeds into other negative stereotypes about orcs. And she's trying to gain
Ah.
acceptance
Oh, I didn't
between
even think about
her
that.
people and the orc. Well, because right, like look at every time there's like a big crime, everybody immediately is like, okay, but
What
what's the
race
color
were
of their
they?
skin? Yeah, because every single thing that happens colors everything
Mm-hmm.
about how people perceive their subgroup, their like um
Mm-hmm.
minority group.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like what his old ass doesn't know won't hurt him.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about that. I was like, yeah, like why tell him,
It's
like,
like he's gonna die anyway. This whole thing
yeah,
is
yeah,
mine. Like
yeah. To
fuck him.
me, it was like, to me, it was like, well, he had been sick, and um, she didn't want to like make him, excuse me, die of like heartbreak or something. That's how I took it. That maybe
Well, I
she didn't,
mean,
yeah,
yeah,
you know,
he was gonna die regardless. It's like he would have died of heartbreak if she had been left to get killed by him. Either way,
exactly,
someone was dying.
right.
And like he would rather the heir to his shit live than the fucking asshole.
Yeah, yeah, because nobody wanted him to rule. I mean, can you imagine? Ugh.
Right. That it was like the correct choice, technically correct, quote unquote.
Yeah.
There's no real correct choice, but that like in self defense he was doomed.
Right, right, yeah. Like, yeah. So to me, it was justified.
I guess the last thing that wasn't really like a question, more just like a funny thing that like because Hakon is only half orc, Hakon and Aislinn's baby is just a court orc,
Yes, okay, that was my final point. That's so cute.
just like the
Okay.
palest green skin.
Yeah, like she's like
I
sagey
thought that was
green.
cute.
It was really cute. I was
Sage
like, oh
green.
my god, I love you. So, well, it's like sort of different, but like at the very end when they like introduce the baby to everybody, like the whole court, like it also says that Ilarion is there with his bride. So she doesn't mention the bride by name because obviously spoiler alert. But there's also Oric and Sorsha who is also there, and they also have a baby. And I'm like, anyway, it was cute. I was like, oh
Babies
my god.
everywhere.
Yeah. Anyway, what was your
Quarterling
point?
orcs. My
That was my
last thing that I forgot to mention at the beginning, there was a good metaphor at the beginning with the Aslin's mom's rose garden and how everything's
yes.
like neglected and fucked up, and it's like it's a metaphor for how she feels choked out and neglected by
Yes.
her circumstances,
Yes.
and that she mentions that the air is suffocating, and that
Yes.
the arc of the story is about feeling trapped but trying to gain control over her own life. That's basically being spoken for. Like she doesn't have any time to feed her own needs and wants.
Mm-hmm. But you notice as the book goes on that the garden gets tended to
You know, I
because,
didn't notice that, but I'm
yeah,
glad you did
yeah, because
because
Oric tended to it, and then she would go tend
yeah,
to
that
it,
with
and he was
help.
helping her, and yeah, mm-hmm,
Mhm.
mm-hmm. So yeah, and I love. Okay, this is like a really random side note, but like again, Hakon kept making her like random gifts, and one of the gifts he made her was a rose. It's
I
like a
know, it's
metal.
really
It was like a
cute.
metal rose, and she like used it as like a fidget tool. That was the other thing I forgot. Yeah, she uses it as a fidget tool. Like it'll be in her pocket, and she's just like rubbing like the smooth sides of the rose, and I'm like, eh. Anyway, okay, all right. I think
Yeah, I think that's no, that's it. I was just thinking about how much this kind of reminds me of my parents' marriage.
yes. Like I was getting yes, yeah.
It's
I
like
was.
very based on like helping each other with shit that sucks for the other.
Mm.
Very like I married a man who does car stuff because I hate it and I will never do it. And dad's like I married a woman who does paperwork because I hate it and I will never do it. And
No,
together
but
we managed to survive this earth.
no, but what I loved at the end is that Hakon also realized that what Oric told him was true, and then he had to fit into her life as well, and he becomes her Lord Consort. So it's like everything works out, and he realizes he can help in other ways. Like he can help, he starts to realize the ways in which he can help too, um, by being her Lord Consort and by helping the otherlies integrate into um, the Darrowland Society. So, um, yeah. So stay tuned, guys, because I gave that book. I mean, if we want to talk about rating, I gave that, like, if we're doing it out of 10, she's like 10, 10 out of 10. Like,
No, it was a
really,
really cute book.
it was so cute.
Um,
And yeah,
I only
like,
gave it a 4 because I was just ready for action, and I think the first bit of it was just a little like slow for me at
for
first.
you.
But the
Okay.
characters are really cute. I loved
They're
the
just so
representation.
adorable.
The smut was great as always.
She's
Do
very
a
good
really
at
good
writing
job at
those.
that.
Yeah, she is.
Um,
She's awesome.
yeah, and they were a cute couple. It was nice that it was like different from Sorsha and Auric in many
Yeah,
ways,
like,
but also like not. I don't
yeah.
know. It was like similar, but they had their own flavor, their own
But they had their
conflicts,
own
and
thing. Like, it didn't feel like you were just reading, like,
right,
it,
right.
it,
It
it was
wasn't just
not,
like
yeah,
Halfling 2.
Halfling Part 2. But yes, so stay
Good job. We love
tuned.
you.
Yes, we love you. So stay tuned, guys, because we're going to be reading more of her, and it's
Since it's
awesome.
the end, we need a cat update.
Oh, yeah, the cat update.
Quick cat update.
Let's see. Pippin and Aquila, they have turned 9 years old. Their birthday was in
Oh.
December.
So are they Sagittarius or are they Capricorn?
They were born December 14th.
Okay, so they're Sagittariuses.
But
My
yeah,
cats are
they,
Virgos.
yeah.
Doesn't
Oh,
that
they
make
are.
sense that they're Virgos? They're
Yes.
so like, oh my god,
Gemini's like
rigid
freaking
needs.
crazy. Oh my god.
No, he
I
was
mean, I'm
being
sure he's.
bananas this morning.
Oh, so he's still crazy? Because I
Yeah.
remember, like, the one and only time I've met Gemini, I remember we were sitting in your living room when you were living in West Virginia, and we were, like, having a good time. And then
God, that
you
was like
started, that was many
10,
moons
five
ago.
years ago,
Yeah.
6 years ago.
But, like, we played with a laser pointer with him, and he literally, like, tried to climb the wall, like, five
Oh
feet
yeah,
up.
no,
It
he's
was
got the best jumps I've
ridiculous.
ever seen.
I was
He's
just
like,
like, oh my god, it's like having a cheetah in the house.
yeah, no, literally it
Like,
is. He
jeez.
needs room to run. Like he is so
He's hilarious,
cooped
though.
up in here, but he like has this route that he does in the living room
Oh
where
my
he
god.
goes through. We have a curtain hanging, and it's like the best cat portal he's ever had. He goes through it all the time, goes around through the kitchen, back to the door, back through. He goes up back to the couch, up on the cat tree, scratches it, runs back down the cat tree, back across the. He just
Oh
does the
my
same
god.
shit over and over, back and forth, back and
Oh
forth.
my god. He's so dumb.
I know
I mean,
he needs
he's.
stimulation, and I bother him, and it does some, but yeah, they're hanging in there, same shit, different day. All right,
That's
so
pretty much
that's
all we
that
got.
for our show. Thanks for joining us. Like and subscribe. Check out our links; they're in the show notes, and we hope you have a good day.
Absolutely. Bye.
Bye.